أهلا وسهلا فيكم في أمدي لاب 2019.
Welcome to Amdi Lab 2019. Can you hear the interpretation? Can you hear the interpretation? I am Jad Mlki. I'm head of the media department in the LAU, and I am the head of this academy. I will have a 45 one-hour talk with you about the objectives of the academy, what we do, what is media literacy, what is the type of media literacy that we are working on, our curriculum in the Lebanese American University. By the end of this lecture, we will have a Q&A session, and I will collect all your questions. I will be talking in Arabic and Lebanese. Be prepared. I will commit many mistakes. You know that I'm not that perfect in Arabic, but anyway, we will give it a try. What is media literacy? What is media literacy? Can you give me 5 answers? What is media literacy? Hello. Media literacy and digital literacy is a study that aims at promoting knowledge and capacities in addition to competencies in order to create a good quality media product and an ethical media product. Good afternoon. In brief, media literacy is about raising a new generation that can deal with the social media news and can be up to the new world trends. So decent media production, ethical media production. I have almost the same answer. It is about the capacity to deal with the media content and to deal with the content on social media as well, on the new media platforms. I do not have much to add, but I would like to stress on 2 things. Production and consumption of a media content intended to all people coming from all backgrounds, age categories. Two more colleagues. Media literacy is about the production of the media content while respecting ethical values, professional values, and the values as well of the institution to which the person belongs. Hello. I agree with everything that has already been said, but I would like to add that media literacy is about the competencies, the set of competencies and skills that aim at producing content or dealing with the content that we receive, whether in terms of sharing it on social media platforms. So it is about producing or consuming the content, the media content. Thank you. You are right. Your answers are accurate. We do not have one single definition of media literacy. In MD Lab, we are trying to change some concepts, some definitions, and we're trying to add some details that are related to our communities and our societies in this region. Do not expect anyone to come and define to you media literacy, and do not expect that you can implement everything that is just being said to you. You are pioneers in media literacy, and you will be pioneers in media literacy in the Arab world, and your role will be to change the perspective. Media literacy changes every 4 to 5 years across the world, so with the development of the internet, media literacy definition changed, and whenever you talk and you deal with media literacy, you should always think about what you can add, what you can do for your institutions, for your societies, your communities, the Arab world, or any other environment that you are working in. This started historically as an academic movement. It started with the beginning of the cinema. Some were afraid of the impact of cinema on children, on adolescents, and it was extremely important to raise awareness among how this cinema works. It started as an academic movement in the 1960s. In 1982, there was the Groundwork Declaration during the UNESCO meeting. The first sentence of the Groundwork Declaration is we live in a world where media is omnipresent. This was in 1982. How many of you were born before 1982? So half of you approximately were born before 1982. So if you remember, in 1982 there was no social media, no internet, no cell phones, not even mobile phones or smartphones. We had the old landline telephone, and we didn't even have that in Lebanon during the war. So we are living in a world where media is omnipresent. This was said in 1982, so you can imagine how things are now. Media literacy, critical thinking and creativity, literacy, intercultural citizenship, knowledge, sustainability, Melclicks. We share hundreds of information per day. We listen, we interact, we play, we produce content. But are we doing all this wisely? Behind every click, there's a content produced by a certain person. Do we know where to look for information? What sources do we trust? Do we know how to interact logically, how to critically engage with the content in order to be able to promote peace, coexistence, equality, freedom of expression, dialogue, and better activity on the internet? Melclicks is a new initiative that was launched with the support of UNESCO, and all of its partners use Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for fun, for leisure, for education and learning. Interact with your feelings, share information, solve puzzles and jigsaws, and learn new skills. But the main challenge is to defy and to challenge this content in order to click wisely while using your critical thinking skills. This is a part of Melclicks. Are you ready? Join our initiative. Look, share, use Melclicks, and become a Melclicker. Who are so among you, are there participants that come from the GMI? In Jordan, Hanadi participated in the development, in the production of this video, and we used it in order to define media literacy. UNESCO, UNAOC, and the Alliance of Civilizations in 2005 have adopted this idea of media literacy, and it was used to build bridges between diverse cultures and communities. So starting 2005, this became an international trend in universities, in schools, in groups that are active across the world in this field. In the Arab world, until 2009, there were only 2 private schools teaching media literacy. In 2010, when we conducted a survey with the teachers, no one knew what media literacy was, and we had different definitions of media literacy. In 2011, we organized a conference. It was named New Directions in Media Literacy Education. So this was the title of the conference back then. And we started from this conference publishing ideas and defining the challenges that hinder media literacy across the world. And this is how MD Lab was launched. We do not have professors or teachers that truly master media literacy or that can teach media literacy. We do not have enough content, enough material. We do not have enough educational material or content in order to teach media literacy. Hence, in 2013, we launched MD Lab with the aim of training participants and producing content for media literacy, and you are part of this program now. So again, the main aim behind this academy was to promote media literacy, but not the media literacy that we import, but rather the one that we create. Hence, your role in developing your own ideas and getting your own inspiration and adapting media literacy to your environment and to your communities and societies. By the end of the lecture, I will be talking about being open, about openness to others. You will listen and hear many things that you might reject or that you might not accept. Some of you might feel offended. No problem. Be open. Be open to everything. You do not have to validate all the ideas that I'm saying. You do not have to agree with everything. I almost broke my glass. Anyway, the most important thing is to respect each other's views. Your role is to promote media literacy. One of the institutions that helped MD Lab and the launch of MD Lab is the Salisbury Academy. The Salisbury Academy sheds light on media literacy across the world. I was one of those who founded this academy that started in 2007. It included many universities from across the globe. I will show you a video about Salisbury Academy. My computer froze. I'm sorry for that.
Three sessions on share.
أظن أنه يمكن للإعلام أن يغير وجه العالم. الإعلام والتغيير. الإعلام وحده يمكنه أن يغير العالم. كل معتقداتنا، كل ما نعرفه عن العالم يأتي من وسائل الإعلام، سواء كنا نتكلم عن مجتمعاتنا، عن بلداننا، أو عن مناطقنا. الإعلام هو الطريقة الوحيدة لتغيير وجه العالم. هذه طالبة من الصين. يمكن للإعلام أن يستخدم أو أن يعتبر نعمة أو نقمة، أو أن يستخدم بطريقة سلبية أو إيجابية. هناك طبعا الكثير من الظلم، العنف والأمور السيئة التي تحصل حول العالم، والإعلام هو الذي ينقل ما يحصل. لا أعرف إذا كان يمكن أن نثق في العالم العربي بأنه يمكن للعالم أن يتغير. هناك أمثلة كثيرة رأيناها من برنامج الأمم المتحدة الإنمائي، ورأينا كيف يمكن أن نغير الكثير بفضل الإعلام. كنت أعمل في البوسنة، وفي البوسنة هناك عدد كبير من الأشخاص العاطلين عن العمل. هناك مجموعة متكاملة من الدروس التي أعطيت في هذا البلد حول التربية الإعلامية للأشخاص الذين أتوا من البوسنة ومن كرواتيا. يتكلم في بعض الأحيان البعض عن بعض الأمور فقط لإثارة البلبلة من دون تأكد من الأخبار. أنا الآن كمنتجة محتوى بدت أعي أكثر أهمية العمل الذي أقوم به. إذا ما أردنا أن نغير العالم علينا أن نغامر، علينا أن نخاطر، علينا أن نتحدى معتقداتنا والأفكار المسبقة لدينا. بات لدينا الآن مسؤولية اجتماعية. ما الذي نريد أن نفعله في مجتمعاتنا؟ ما هو الأثر الذي نريد أن نتركه؟ ما هي المحاسبة ودرجة المحاسبة التي نعتمدها؟ يمكن استخدام الإعلام كقوة إيجابية لنشر الخير. لذلك هذا هو الدور الذي نقوم به، هذا ما تعلمناها. نحن ما عدنا ننظر إلى معلومة ما أو رسالة ما كما كنا ننظر إليها في الماضي. بدنا نعرف كيف نحلل هذه الرسالة، من هو الشخص الذي أطلق هذه الرسالة أو هذا المحتوى، لأي أسباب. إذا مثلا تفكير نقدي لدى التعامل مع المعلومات. نحن يجب أن نفهم دائما ما يحصل في العالم، في حياة كل يوم، في الحياة اليومية، في السياسة، في المجتمعات المختلفة والبيئات المختلفة، إذا ما أردنا أن نحلل بشكل صحيح المعلومات. أنا بت قادرة الآن على إطلاق شبكة خاصة تسمح للأشخاص بمشاركة قصصهم عليها لتبادل الخبرات والمعلومات حول هذا الموضوع، موضوع التربية الإعلامية. من المهم أن يفهم الأشخاص أنهم يمكنهم أن يتعاملوا بطريقة مختلفة مع الواقع عينه ومع الحالة عينها. في عام 2014 كان هناك عدد من الطلاب الذين اجتمعوا في إطار هذه الأكاديمية، وتطرقت المشاريع المختلفة إلى مواضيع من حول العالم. I will summarize the pedagogical philosophy of the Salzburg Media School. Critical thinking or critical inquiry is the first foundation, the first pillar of media literacy. You've all heard about critical thinking or critical inquiry. What do we mean by critical inquiry or critical thinking? Double check the accuracy and the authenticity of every picture, every image, every content. Use my critical thinking and the critical inquiry skills in order to know whether a content is true, is accurate, is false or not. So critical thinking is critical thinking. We know that critical thinking became like a cliche now, so everyone repeats the same word, the same term, but very few know how to define critical thinking. There are many definitions of critical thinking. Other answers? Analyze and assess the content. So analyze, analytical skills, mainly, assessment. I think that critical thinking is about a set of questions that we ask ourselves before adopting a certain idea or publishing a certain idea or sharing an idea, and before getting to the conclusion that we are convinced in. So you talk about questions, we're asking ourselves questions. I think that it is about understanding, analyzing, producing any content, any news. So this is critical thinking. So understanding, analyzing, producing. So draw on the information that we have in order to assess the situation. I think that it's like an inquiry. It's like having an interview or interviewing someone. I should know more about that person, about the topic that I'm going to talk about. So it is about assessing our vices, the negative aspects. So know the positive and negative aspects of every topic, of every subject, or of every person. I am Yusra Khreisha, and I cannot, for example, allow for others to judge me based on my name or my surname. It is about what I know, the amount of knowledge that I have. And critical thinking, I think critical thinking is one of the most important 21st century skills that is about being able to deal with everything surrounding us. Critical thinking starts with the idea, accepting any idea, contemplating the idea, analyzing it, and after that taking the relevant decision. In education, we talk about the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, civilization, and communication. These are the 4 C's, the 4 main skills and competencies to be able to be up to the 21st century challenges. I think that critical thinking is basing our decision on facts, on evidence, on proof. Critical thinking is not about random ideas, but rather about sustainability, about doubting everything that we read or we see. Critical thinking, exactly like media literacy, can have many definitions. We can talk about the formal critical thinking or critical analysis, or informal critical analysis. So, since critical inquiry or critical thinking is a major foundation or pillar of media literacy, it is very important for you to be able to define critical thinking or inquiry. I will not be giving you a full answer now, but I can tell you that when we talk about media literacy, we cannot but acknowledge that critical thinking is a major foundation of that media literacy. I should be able to look at the various aspects, social, political, economic, and various aspects of any topic if I would really like to have a critical thinking. You've talked about the digital empowerment as well, or digital production as well. And it's not only about producing content, but about empowering this content. It's not about, for example, taking our cell phones, taking a picture, and this is how we become influencers or pioneers in media content. production. Civic engagement or civic activism. Media literacy is not about criticizing an article in the news or on the social media, and if we do not really produce content, if we do not share this content and promote civic engagement, this content wouldn't have any value. Collaborative research. We have a huge problem in that field in the Arab world. The majority of university professors and teachers or students obtain their PhD, they start teaching, and that's it. This is not really the objective of any university professor or teacher. The PhD is the first step. After that, it's not only about teaching, about civic engagement, but about producing knowledge, producing content, ideas. And without collaborative research, we cannot move on. We cannot play a major role in promoting media literacy or any other thing in the world. So far, these are four main values of the Salzburg Media School. Any person that does not work on these four levels cannot be considered as a pioneer of media literacy. Social justice, which is quite close to civic engagement or activism. But civic engagement or political engagement just with the aim of solving one single problem or accessing a certain political post is not really our aim. Two other things, and this is the first time I talk about that in the Academy. Thanks to our researchers in the LAU, we were able to define these two values. Design for or with the margin. According to Pitao, if we design anything, a house, a program, anything, if we only design that content for the mainstream, for the elites, for those who do not really have neither economic nor social nor political problems, people on the margins wouldn't be able to benefit from this production. However, if we design content for the margins, the mainstream and the margins would be able to benefit from that. We are developing this idea now, and a book will tackle that issue, a book that will be published within a year or a year and a half approximately. This is the other idea I wanted to talk to you about. After that, we will have a 1 hour and a half lecture to talk more about that. One last thing, working to emancipate the oppressed, which is quite close as well to social justice.
Working to emancipate the oppressed. Have you read anything from Paulo Freire? You know about the pedagogies of the oppressed? We are trying to use this theory in order to change the direction of the media literacy in our state and in the persecuted societies around the world. What do I mean by persecuted or oppressed? Be it the occupied states, so occupied by foreigners, or groups within states, and that is the persecution of women, oppression of women based on the ethnicity, economy, religion, sects. We are trying here to introduce media literacy based on all these topics. This is an idea that we are working on. There are also many other things related to media literacy, and I'll be showing you here a short video on some of the colleagues in the United States of America and in other countries and what they mean by media literacy. فإذا التربية الإعلامية هي مجموعة من المهارات التي يحاول الأشخاص اكتسابها والتعامل معها. بوجود الإنترنت والهواتف المقالة يجب معرفة التعامل مع المعلومات ومع الثقافات، بما أن وتيرة الحياة الآن تغيرت مما كانت عليه منذ 20 عاما. هناك أمور يجب معرفتها من أجل التمدن ومن أجل أن يصبح المرء مواطنا، ونحن نحاول هنا أن نجعل مستهلكي وسائل الإعلام أن يفكروا بطريقة نقدية بما يشاهدونه. الكثير من الأشخاص يتلقون رسائل إعلامية ينتجها المنتجون الإعلاميون، ونحن ننظر بطبيعة الحال إلى التشعبات وإلى نتائج وتداعيات مكونات ومختلف محتويات وسائل الإعلام على الأشخاص، كالذين مثلا يخلقون بروفايل على فيسبوك أو على وسائط اجتماعية أخرى. قد نتكلم هنا عن شريط مصور أو فصحات أونلاين أو على الإنترنت تفاعلية، فبدلا من أن نطرح الأسئلة عن المفعلين لهذه المحتويات يجب أن نطرح أسئلة عن أنفسنا. ما هي المهارات التي نحتاج إليها؟ مثلا مهارة الحكم على معلومة معينة، يعني إذا ما رأينا معلومة على محتوى على الإنترنت علينا أن نقرر ما إذا كانت معلومات موثوقة أو لا. علينا أن نعرف كيف لنا أن ندخل في فصحات مختلفة في مجالات وفضاءات مختلفة. علينا أن نفهم علاقتنا مع الأشخاص، أن نفهم مختلف المعايير، مختلف القواعد. من أبرز المهارات بالنسبة إلي هي القدرة على الاختبار هنا مع المحيط كطريقة لحل المشاكل. أيضا لدينا المحاكاة، الأداة، المسائل المعرفية، المهام المتعددة. هناك بالطبع مهارات تتضمن التعبير الحر، مهارات تتعلق بالمواطنية، مهارات تحسن أيضا الروابط والعلاقات بين الأشخاص. In 2007, when the Academy was established, we have defined its objectives as follows. The Digital and Media Literacy Academy in Beirut aims at empowering the digital and media literacy while training a generation of academics and students of media and creating media curricula that are deeply rooted in the Arab region. And so the definition, of course, here has to develop. And this is the role of the focus group that I'm going to establish with Dr. Claudia Kozman. Its role is to try and develop such a definition. 6 years after MD Lab, we have 60 universities and schools in the Arab region that have adopted the media literacy, some of which are giving a full course of the media literacy, some are introducing the media literacy course in other courses, some of them are their own clubs, their own activities. Most of the media literacy efforts today is concentrated in Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. There are some activities in Syria, Palestine, Qatar, Oman, and in some other countries, but the road is still too long, and so every energy, every help that you can provide to this space would be very beneficial to our Arab region. Our objective up until the year 2020, so I used to talk about that 6 years ago, we would think that 2020 is very far away. However, now it's very close. So our objective was to introduce the media literacy into 50 schools and universities, and we have achieved that objective. But now the long-term objective is not only introducing the media literacy to every Arab state, which was already achieved, but rather introducing media literacy to all the curricula, all the teaching curricula, be it media curricula or any other curricula. All can benefit from the media literacy when it comes to using the principles of the media literacy and on many other levels. التربية الإعلامية يعني إعطاء الأشخاص قدرة معينة وصوتا لاستخدام وسائل الإعلام لإحداث تغير إيجابي حول العالم. فإذا التربية الإعلامية تجعلنا نرى المحيط والبيئة التي تحيط بنا ونتنبه لمختلف الصور المحيطة بنا ونطرح أسئلة حول مصدر هذه الصور، من الذي اخترعها، من الذي كونها. نحن نريد أن تعرف القصص حول العالم حتى يفهم الأشخاص ويفهم الأخطاء وربما كل العوائق في قروننا هذه. نريد مساعدة الأقليات والنساء ليس لديهم فضاءات واسعة في الإعلام، لذلك عندما نقدم فرصا في التربية الإعلامية فهذا سوف يساعد النساء والأقليات وإلى ما هنالك. التربية الإعلامية تشجع الأشخاص وتشجع الجيل الشاب على احتلال الفضاءات الإعلامية على الإنترنت وخارج إطار الإنترنت. في الأعوام السابقة وجدنا كم أن اندلاب كانت مهمة في المنطقة. نحن اعتمدنا أيضا مواد حول التربية الإعلامية وأصبح لدينا طلابا يستهلكون بشكل أفضل مواد التربية الإعلامية. The focus also was on the practical stuff so that you would be able to master the use of the media literacy. Of course, what I've learned in the Media Lab is going to reflect on my work. Everything that we are learning here is applicable, whether you have already information and you have added new information to that, this would be great. أعتقد أن الأمور التقنية والعملية تساعدنا على أن نمكن الأشخاص الآخرين من اكتساب تربية إعلامية، وبذلك من أن يفسروا أو يفهموا بشكل أفضل الرسائل التي هي مرسلة من وسائل الإعلام. What I liked in the Media Lab is the people whom I met, the different cultural backgrounds in our Arab region. فعلا كل مسار التعلم في ميديا لاب، كل الخبراء، كل هذا المسار وكل التعلم الذي اكتسبناه من اندي لاب كان مبهرا. So what is media literacy? Let us put some definitions. The Aspen meeting in 1992, it was defined as follows. Media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media in a variety of forms. Back then in 1992, we weren't that much surrounded with media. And so the way we are trying to define media literacy simply is the following. Media education aimed at self and communal empowerment and emancipation of the oppressed. Everything in blue is new. We are still looking into whether we have to add it or not and how to define it and everything. But why media literacy today? Why is it important? In 1982, it was written that the media is surrounding us in all the aspects of our lives. And today we are drowned into the media, be it computers, be it the mobile phones, smartphones. Our children, ever since they are born, they have a cell phone in their hands. Who sleeps with their mobile phones next to them? Or if I may ask, who doesn't sleep with their mobile phones next to them? Only one? Would you ever sleep without your mobile phone being next to you? Where do you put it? 1 meter away. 1 meter away? It's this distance. There are new studies that are being conducted on the impact of the mobile on our sleep and on our thinking, especially when it comes to children. We are spending 24 hours a day on the media ever since we are born. We are surrounded by the billboards, TVs, radio, internet, media is everywhere. The mobile phones, I don't know whether we can call it the illness of our century, all the accidents, road accidents that are due to the use of the mobile phones. We are drowned into all these. And once we are drowned, what should we do when we are drowning? What should we do? We have to learn how to swim, of course. If we don't learn how to swim before drowning, this would be our last opportunity, whether we are individuals or communities. As I said, the UNESCO adopted the media literacy, and even it defined the media literacy as being at the core of the freedom of expression and the freedom of media. So if we are aiming at all this, then our societies have to introduce the media literacy into their curricula. But at the same time, at the level of the individual, if we are to find a job, and please mind you, this is not updated, so just search on Google the top 10 skills for work. You would see that the media literacy is one of the most important 10 skills for jobs in the present and in the future, even at the level of the individuals. The studies show that if we are, or if we want for our community to be politically active on the field and change the society, the media literacy is very beneficial. And you all know that some of the groups that are using media are always, or are also, in fact, using media to spread their ideologies, to attract their partisans and supporters. Who hasn't heard of fake news before? Also, studies show that normally people who are educated media-wise, they can easily spot the fake news. But also at the family level, the diseases related to the use of media are widespread. Like 15 years ago, I would just list 2 or 3. Now I have a full list. Every 2 to 3 years, we are discovering a new disorder related to media. So let us talk about some raw material of the media literacy, and you will find that in all the workshops that you will be following in this academy. The first principle is that all media messages are constructions. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by the fact that every media content is complex or construction as it's translated on the screen? Yes, even if it is a text. Please raise your hand, and if you wish to answer, please, one answer please, one at a time. It has like a human element, and it's the human being who has composed this content, has processed this content, and directed this content in order to convey a certain message, so that a consumer would read that message. Of course, there's nothing natural about the media message. It's not the image, nor the post, nor the text, nor the word. There's a person behind this media message. There's a person who has decided to write a word, to post an image, a picture, to take it from a certain angle for a certain objective. And maybe that person does not know what that aim is, but there's a decision behind posting that image. There's nothing that comes spontaneously in the media. The media content is a representation and not reflection of reality. What do you mean by that? My question, no, you don't have to ask a question here, you have to answer. I just have one small intervention. No, I need an answer. If you have a question, please leave it till the end. What do you mean by messages are representations and not reflections of reality? It means that it is a media manufacturing or industry that does not reflect the reality. It's just an intervention here that I have. Please leave the questions till the end and your interventions till the end, please. I will reserve your right, but at the end, because here we have to focus on that content here. So what do you mean by the fact that it is a representation and that it does not reflect the reality? It means that it reflects the vision of the person who produced that message, and it's a personal interpretation of the message and the personal message that he wants to convey. And so it is the special perspective of that person, the private perspective of that person that does not necessarily match the reality. Exactly, because there's no perspective that matches the reality, even in the simplest things. Let's take an image or a video. You are taking a decision here on who to put in that image and who to remove from that image. So you don't know whether if you put your camera up, you would make the person show in the image or not. So you are here representing a certain amount of the reality, and since media cannot reflect the reality because the reality is very complicated, no media message, no media tool, no media outlet can ever reflect the reality. Media messages have economic, political, cultural, and technological dimensions, etc. What do you mean by that? Microphone, please. I have another intervention. No, I cannot give you the floor to have an intervention. It should be like a part of, and not the whole thing. So the media messages have economic, political, cultural, and technological dimensions. Yes. The one who produced the content or the message has a certain political affiliation, has a certain economic vision. I'm talking about the media messages and not the persons that have produced these messages. So yes, because the messages are going to carry the identity of the producers. I'll give you an example. This is your colleague on her mobile phone. Please put it aside. Put it aside. This is your colleague. We have taken a picture for her while on her mobile. What is the economic, political, and cultural and technological dimension here? If we have a critical dimension here, we could say that she is being distracted by her mobile phone. Okay, this is the technological dimension and technological critique. What's the cultural dimension? It's that maybe she is tweeting or something. She might be sharing a content here. So maybe she is very interested in sharing the content. No, but where's the cultural dimension here? Give me a cultural dimension. Okay, so she has Arab looks, she's veiled. It all reflects meanings here. Okay, what's the economic dimension here? What's the type of the mobile phone that you have? Huawei, so it's not iPhone. So she's not one of the richest people. All of these are parts of an image that reflects a certain dimension. Individuals interpret messages differently. Who would like to explain that idea? Yes. Let us hear from someone who hasn't taken the floor yet. لمن منكم يريد التحدث باللغة الإنجليزية؟ So it means that every culture reflects its own vision of the media message that is being spread. Okay, but give us an example here. What does that mean? It means that every society would take into consideration the media message based on the different ideas in a certain community. Individuals interpret messages differently. It means that individuals have their own orientations and thoughts. And so this is a personal framework since individuals are going to implement the theory of the guardians of the portal. And so now here we're talking about the audience, of course, because the individuals are users at the end. So individuals depend on their own orientations and thoughts. If we post, let's say, the image of a Palestinian child standing before an Israeli artillery, how can we translate that? It depends on the individual's perception. Give me 4 theories on how to interpret it. So 4 different interpretations, 4 different people. who give me the interpretation. No, give me examples. Okay. As a Palestinian, I will see that child as a hero. An Israeli would see it as a criminal, would see the child as a criminal. Maybe someone who is unbiased, a third party, would say that, who are those? Yes, these are three. I just need one more. One more person who can interpret it differently. Yeah, maybe someone would interpret it as stealing the rights of children or an intimidation of children. This might be seen by the NGOs or child rights organizations. Well, yes, and it could be the mother of the child who would see it differently, be it Palestinian or not. So based on that principle, we proceed, because there is no one media message. Every media message is interpreted differently depending on our background, on our knowledge, our education. Media is not a homogeneous block, and it's not independent from the society. This principle, in fact, is very confusing. We say media is that, this media is that. We are the media, we are part of the media. Even the journalist who is working in a media outlet is a part of the community. The media does not produce diseases and problems. The media would just reassert these diseases. So if you have sectarianism in a community, it's not the media that has created that sectarianism. But the media here is playing a role in fighting sectarianism or in reasserting that sectarianism, further spreading that sectarianism and enhancing the political use of that sectarianism. So we have to be accurate while talking about the impact of the media on the society. Some fundamental questions here. Who created the media message? For any media content, you have to ask this question. You may say, well, the one who wrote the article, but the one who wrote the article or the one who took the image or the picture is not may not have decided single-handedly. Maybe there are social pressures or other kinds of pressures that have impacted the production of that message. What techniques are used to attract attention? There are millions of social messages that we are receiving just as rockets here, and they are competing to attract our attention, and the professionals know perfectly well how to attract your attention, be it on Facebook, on Twitter, by email, through a certain image, a voice, or anything. The problem here is that because of the high level of distraction and the numerous social outlets or social media outlets, we are using unethical ways to attract attention. If you have arrived from the airport at Tahrir, you would see the billboards and you would see the naked women on the billboards all the way from the airport until here, the University of LEU. You haven't paid attention to that. Maybe you should have gone into the other direction. Why do we put naked women on our billboards? To grab attention, of course. It's the human instinct. So it's in order to grab the attention. But what's the idea behind it? The ones who are producing this content, well, it's that sex sells. If you ask people who are producing this kind of messages or contents, or the institutions that believe that sex sells, you could see that, on the other hand, studies show that sex sells in certain merchandise related to sex. So you could find now all these billboards with all these images. If you go to the Jaita grotto, for example, you would see what I'm talking about. In 90 to 95% of the cases, on the contrary, it doesn't sell. What is the other dimension of these images? The objectification of women. And There would be seminars on that issue and a discussion on that issue, so I'll not be delving into that now. What lifestyles, values, points of views are presented? Could you give me a media message, an example of a media message, and tell me an example of certain lifestyle values or points of views? Any media message that you have watched during these 2 days. Give me an example. Yes. Anything. An image, a video, something that you've watched on the social media. On the mic, please. So it's the series of Jinn. It's a Jordanian series. It's a Lebanese director. So the main director is Lebanese with a Jordanian director. What's his first name? Basil. He's on our advisory board. Okay, so you were saying? No, I've just given an example. The series of Jinn in Jordan, it made headlines in Jordan. It was linked to the prejudice, to traditions, cultures. Many were against this series. Now, if you'd ask me about my own personal point of view, I didn't understand what you said. Well, as audience, and this is not a personal taste here, of course, there are some terms that I don't approve of, but I don't consider it as humiliation to Jordan or to Petra if you have filmed kisses taking place in Petra. So lifestyles that some would consider as strange to Jordan, they are in the series of Jinn. So this has created the revolution and the uprising against the series. Alongside this, on the social media, there was news from a Jordanian newspaper from 30 years. It's about the song Yamal Amar al Bab, or the moon is at the door. And the Jordanian radio refused, in fact, to broadcast this song because it is also against the culture. So, well, yes, thank you. Your message has been conveyed. So it's important here not only to see the values, lifestyles, and points of views that are in the things that create revolutions or humiliations or make people upset, but it's important to see the lifestyles, the values, the points of view, and the media message that we see on a daily basis, which is here replicating or reproducing the community as is.
Whether in terms of family, religion, culture, or any other idea that we believe in. We stop saying that because these reflect a part of our culture, a part of our lifestyle, our background. This is one of the most difficult things to see. Why was this message sent or this content published? This is one of the most important questions for critical thinking. This is one of the major foundations of critical thinking. So why was this message sent? You had an answer, ma'am? There are many objectives. So this might happen for political reasons. This might have commercial reasons, marketing reasons, financial reasons. This depends on the agenda of the media outlet, of course. And if we can define the aim of the message, for example, propaganda, marketing, commercial, political, electoral aim, we would be able to protect ourselves from this message. How might different people understand the same message differently? It is very important to understand that, to ask that question and understand the answer. If we were to truly be efficient in conveying the message that we want to convey, we should be able to answer that question. I'll give you an example. There was a group of Lebanese people 5 years ago or 6 years ago that decided to create content in order to raise awareness about the occupation of Palestine, of course, in Western countries. They produced a video in which the majority of people were wearing masks, wearing black, they had weapons, they had revolutionary songs, and if you know how the majority of Western people think, you would know how the reaction would be to that video, and you would know that the message wasn't well conveyed, and worse, the message, instead of rallying people around the Palestinian cause, this Palestinian cause they were trying to convey in their video, they created a negative impact. They had the completely different impact on public opinion. So what impact could the message have on society? And the new question, how can this message emancipate any oppressed? When we talked about oppressed, we do not only talk about about people who are oppressed on the political level, but even in the society. So how can we liberate or emancipate women? How can we emancipate children from their addiction to technology? How can we emancipate any group? Who are among the oppressed groups in our society, in your opinion? People living with disabilities. So people living with disabilities are among the most oppressed. So people living with disabilities, people with special needs, someone said. Other answers, workers in general are among the oppressed categories in society. That they are deprived from their rights, and they do not have decent work conditions. So workers. Children, perhaps, are among the most oppressed. Mainly children who are victims of violence and abuse. Workers, so home workers, those who work at home, foreign workers. Students. Someone said students. Depends. Which students are you talking about? I think that all those who are deprived from their rights, from freedom, from aspirations. I can give you the example of Malala Yousafzai, the girl from Afghanistan that was defending the right of girls to education. So children that do not have access to education, students or children that do not have access to education are among the most oppressed. There are some practices in the universities, mainly Arab universities, in which some categories are victims of discrimination. We have discrimination based on gender, men and women, girls and boys. Many students are oppressed in universities. They are threatened. There are many practices, many ways of dealing with these students that might violate their rights, which make them among the oppressed groups. We've heard about some stories in some universities about many cases that were filed in the tribunals about how some teachers were treating some students by abusing them, violating them, threatening them, blackmailing them. I'm not talking about this MD lab, of course. Ismail, every person can be oppressed, whether young men, whether children, whether older men, whether workers. All these might be oppressed at a certain time, at a certain moment in history. Of course, you are right, but we are trying to think in terms of groups. Who are the oppressed groups? Sometimes persecution or oppression is exerted against certain groups just because of their belonging. For example, Ismail, I do not like you because you stole my food 2 days ago, is unlike the oppression or the persecution that large groups are victim of. So because of our ignorance, because of the lack of knowledge, or because of a certain belonging of a person to a certain group. Syrians, for example, are oppressed, which is quite a large group, so Syrians are oppressed. Other answers? Ethnic, racial, or religious minorities in certain countries that adopt or that have the ideology of a certain racist supremacy or ethnic supremacy. Do you have any example of a certain group? In Jordan, for example, we have a Baha'i minority. If you monitor the news and the comment section, you would notice many negative comments, many aggressive comments against this Baha'i community. We have as well certain tensions between Christians and Muslims. 3 more answers. Refugees. And in Jordan, we have the stateless persons or persons who do not have any identification papers, and those persons, for example, discover after they are 18 years old that they do not have any right and identification papers. In my opinion, I think women are among the most oppressed groups. So following my researches and studies, I found that women are among the groups that are the most oppressed or persecuted. I think that women are among the most oppressed, not only in the Arab world, but in Western countries as well. One more answer, Anna. Today in the world, we are talking a lot about economic violence. If I were to take Lebanon as an example, I can talk about a certain age category of unemployed persons. These are oppressed, these are persecuted. Women, for example, in Lebanon that do not have the right to give their nationality, to pass their nationalities to their children, are among the oppressed as well. One last answer. سوف أتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية. أظن أنه من المهم أن نعرف أيضا أن هذا النوع من الاضطهاد هو ممنهج، وأن هذه المنهجية وهذا النظام يتغير من مكان إلى آخر ومن زمان إلى آخر. كنت أحضر أو أشارك في محاضرة حول المرأة مؤخرا، ورأيت كيف أن مثلا النساء اللواتي يضعن الحجاب يتعرضن للاضطهاد بشكل مختلف في ألمانيا بشكل مختلف عن النساء مثلا اللواتي يضعن الحجاب أو لا يضعن ولا يرتدين الحجاب في أماكن أخرى مثل مثلا مصر أو بلدان أخرى من العالم. إذا هناك مجموعات من النساء ذوات البشرة السمراء أو حتى المحجبات التي يتعرضن لهذا الاضطهاد. You're right, and we should be aware of persecution and oppression. We should be aware of the systematic way of exerting this pressure and this oppression. When we talk about oppressing an entire group, we should know that this group is not identified in one singular way, in one way. We cannot think that all women are oppressed. Women are oppressed, yes, but women belonging to a certain race are more oppressed. Muslim women might be more oppressed, for example, in Western countries. Muslim women that are veiled and that belong to a certain race are more oppressed than others. For example, poor women are oppressed as well. We have a sort of a cumulative oppression. We stressed a lot on the answers to this question because when the students will work on their projects, they will have to choose one topic among these topics to know and examine how are these groups reflected in the media. You have symbolic annihilation, for example. Are they oppressed in the media? Are they oppressed in the media or not? We will have focus groups. So we will organize the focus groups on Tuesday. 8 to 10 participants will gather in every group. Claudia, Anna, and I are choosing these groups. So on Tuesday from 3:45 till 6 p.m. We will be dividing into groups. We'll have focus groups, and we would like to ask you to give us your opinion about oppression, about media literacy, and using media literacy in order to fight persecution and oppression. One last thing. Annie started the day with these golden rules. It is important, very important for you to be disciplined, to be open-minded. When I talk about discipline, I talk about time. Most of us come from Arab countries. I know how time looks for us. So we should be here on time, because if we're 5 minutes late in the morning, we will have 30 minutes delay or more in the afternoon. So if you want to finish early, please be present here on time and come 15 minutes before the start of the sessions. If you look around you, you would see that there are many nationalities, there are many backgrounds, many confessions, many religions, many ideological schools. So you come from different backgrounds. I promise you that someone will eventually say something that bothers you or something that you cannot accept. But please, please, be respectful of others. Be respectful of other people's viewpoints. We are not here to change your mindset, your political views, your economic views, your social views, or anything. We are not here to disrespect any king, any queen, any president, any politician, or anyone. Please put aside any political discourse. Be open-minded. Be respectful of disagreement. I am telling you from now, there are some topics that will bother you. We will talk about women, about sex, about LGBTI. Some of you will be bothered. Be open-minded. Please, we are not here to change your mind or to impose anything on you. Let us agree to disagree. If you want to formulate your opinion, you can do it. But again, please respect others. You cannot decide to monopolize the microphone for 15 minutes just to defend your opinion or to attack other people's opinion. One more thing. Please, let your questions be brief, concise, and to the point. Ask your questions concisely. Do not monopolize the microphone and start giving lectures for minutes and minutes. This is a safe and harassment-free environment. All sorts of harassment, whether psychological pressure, whether sexual harassment. During the past 7 years, we had only one case of harassment, and the person who did it was fired. from the academy. This is very important for us. Please, we should be respectful of each other. We should learn from each other. We should respect each other's views without imposing our views on others. So agreed? One last thing, I would like to thank all the funders, all the donors. You are all present here for free, approximately, in general. We know how costly this academy is. This is why I would like to thank the UNESCO, the European Union, the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange, and the Embassy of Canada that have all helped us cover the fees of MD Lab. This academy is extremely costly, $150,000 to $200,000 every year. This is why I cannot but thank all these funders, all these donors. I would like to thank all the donors, Open Society Foundation, all the other donors for the past years. We have 10 minutes now for the questions while waiting for Gretchen. I will unplug the computer so that Gretchen can plug hers when she comes. Doctor, I have already participated in the Academy in 2015, and we were talking back then about critical thinking or critical inquiry, and about content production. Today, after 3 years or 4 years, I've noticed that we're talking about critical inquiry more than critical thinking, and about empowerment, digital empowerment. The receiver or the user, the end user, is a recipient in the content production. When we talk about users, about end users, we're talking about receiving information, about receiving content. This is why we need critical thinking. So, as people who embraced this idea of media literacy, should we teach our students how to produce in-depth content, and can we move from being mere recipients to being content producers? I don't know if I understood well Dr. Mleki is saying. You were saying that our aim is to develop production means, or to disseminate critical thinking while producing content that doesn't have to be professional, if I understood well. In my own opinion, and in the opinion of MD Lab, both can benefit from media literacy. Experimental journalists can benefit a lot from MD Lab in terms of new techniques, new technologies. There are many professionals now, or at least in the past 20 years, that did not know anything about digital media. But at the same time, the main idea behind media literacy is to have media education for all the society, for everyone to understand how media produces its content, for everyone to be able to protect themselves and to be able to amplify their voices. I will give the floor to someone else and come back to you if we have enough time. Another question? We're sorry we cannot hear the speaker because he is not using the microphone. 2 more questions before giving the floor to Gretchen. We were talking about religious oppression. If I embrace what the American journalists say and talk about, and if we see all the trends that we are witnessing nowadays, can you please repeat your question? The American journalist school, so American journalism, talk about journalists having no race, no color, etc. So the Americans talk about or preach a lot of theories that they do not implement. Fine, but if we were to talk about religious oppression, or if I was to talk about religious oppression, my intent is not to attack any religious category or group. So here, can we say that I can respect media literacy while talking about certain topic and not offending any religious minority? As we have already said, we are here to share knowledge, experiences, and viewpoints about media literacy. University professors among you will notice that they will be able to develop curricula and lectures for media literacy. So based on your understanding of your communities, you will be able to develop your curricula. We are not here to tell you these are the things that you should do and give you a magic wand. Your colleague just talked about being present in 2015 in MD Lab, and 4 years later he's still here because the media literacy is in a continuous development trend. And since we're talking about media literacy as a new science, this media literacy will develop in every school, in every country, in every society, every community. Your voice is extremely important and necessary. One last question? No questions? My colleague, Dr. Gretchen King, will take the floor now. She has a lecture in English. Let us have a 1 minute break for you to be able to grab